So good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to the newsletter customer class. It's welcome back to those who've attended one of my webinars before, and for first timers, my name is Jane Dupree and I'm the Product Marketing Manager at SnapComms, and I'm talking to you today from New Zealand, where it is already 9 o'clock in the morning on the 2nd of March. So I'm on Thursday already, and I'm assisted today by Ellen Rollins, and she's our US-based Customer Success Manager. So hello, Ellen.
Hello, everyone that's here more local, because we're still on March 1st.
And I'll just introduce Matt East. He is on backup. Ellen she's got a severe weather warning where she is, so she might drop off. So we have Matt from our Auckland office who is backup to help me today. Hi, Matt.
Good morning.
Right, so today's class covers our recently launched newsletter tool. It is in its first release and we're so proud of what we've already delivered, but we'll be adding some enhancements throughout the year. And the newsletter replaces the SnapComms magazine channel, which will be retired from our product range by the end of the year. Let's just start with some webinar house rules. I am recording, as I said, and you will receive a copy of it by email a little bit later today. And I'll also include this slide deck, which has some useful links in it towards the end. As attendees, you are all muted on this webinar, but that certainly doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you, because we do. There is a questions feature in the GoToWebinar panel. It's this little orange arrow. If you click that, then your panel will open and you'll be able to type questions, which Ellen or Matt will pick up and interrupt me with. I really don't mind interruptions. In fact, it gives me a chance to catch my breath. So please don't be shy with your questions. My session is about 45 minutes. We do pack in quite a bit. But there should be a bit of time at the end for questions too. So as I said, we are at release 1 of the newsletter, and the product team here and the developers at SnapComms are really interested in any feedback you have on what we've done and any requests for further features. So as I said, don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you. Right, let's run through the class format today. We're going to have a quick look at the value of newsletters in internal communications. We're going to talk about why SnapComms have introduced this new tool when we already have a magazine. We'll look at the prerequisites, the software prerequisites for using the newsletter. Then we'll have a hands-on demonstration of creating a newsletter. We're actually going to be in the Content Manager and we will create and publish a newsletter. I won't have time to go through all the advanced features, so I'll quickly just do a run through the advanced features so that you do know they are available. We'll look at newsletter reporting and we'll touch on some best practice around cloning newsletters. Righto, what are the value of newsletters in internal comms? Well, one of the greatest values is that it can help reduce email overload. So I don't know if you know that research shows that 84% of users, so that's people in the workplace today, keep their email program up in the background at all times, and that 70% of emails that they receive are opened within 6 seconds, and it takes an average of 64 seconds, so that's a minute, to resume the task that was interrupted by email. So the bottom line is that people are using email a lot, and those emails, those interruptions cost. So it's time to try and stop spamming staff and save them from those repeated email interruptions. Now, the newsletter allows you to combine content of multiple non-urgent emails into a weekly or monthly corporate newsletter, all delivered directly on screen in a beautiful format, bypassing email altogether. So you can finally combat information overload, and I'll show you how easy it is with this SnapComms newsletter. So why have we introduced this new tool? Well, previously we offered the SnapComms magazine, as I said. It had a very rigid structure based on articles and sections, and a template had to be ordered from and created by us at SnapComms, and then the format was very locked down with fixed field editing. So let's have a quick look back. This is where we were, I should say. This is where you had to set up your sections, so you had to predefine your sections, you had to predefine your section layouts, and once you'd chosen a layout, there was no mixing and matching of styles, you were locked into that style. This page shows where the author wrote the article. Again, very fixed field editing, and I think the key here, the hardest part, was that you were working completely blind of how this article will actually appear in the newsletter. So out of interest, I'm just going to run a quick poll if you don't mind. Let me just open that for you. You should see some questions on your screen, and I'd just like to know of the audience, how many of you have used that SnapComms magazine in the past or are still currently using it? So if you could please answer no, you've never used it, or yes, you are still using it, or perhaps yes, you've used it in the past and perhaps that was just a trial. So those votes are coming in very fast. And about 70% have never used the old magazine, and the balance are split between still using it or have seen it in the past. So I think a good part of my job today is for the existing magazine users, for me to convince you how much better this new one is, so that you happily move to our new format. Thank you for that. Let me close that off your screens and try and continue on this screen. Right, so again, why the new newsletter? Well, what we found is that modern design requirements coming from you, the customer, have way outgrown that magazine's capability. You customers expect a flexible layout that allows you the freedom to adapt each issue to fit the content you have for that issue. Now, we've made a lot of changes in the SnapComms Content Manager, all of which give you control and allow you to design the newsletter on the fly. So we wanted to introduce a new tool which gave that control to you. Also, as you know, we have a new app. It used to be called the Client, and it allows rich on-screen newsletter content like tickers, slideshows, videos, or even web pages. Now, when I say video, I don't mean a picture with a link to a video. I mean the video actually playing in the newsletter content. That is key to what the new app has allowed. So without any further ado, I'm deliberately darkening my screen because I'm just going to show you two examples of newsletters. The first one you may recognize. It is a replication of our customer connection newsletter, which has been produced in the newsletter tool. So there's the introduction, that's me, and as you can see we have a ticker scrolling a little bit too fast across the screen. Scrolling down, you can see the video is actually playing. The sound is muted, but that sound could be playing. And here we have an eye-catching slideshow going from side to side. So that's a fairly typical example of, a newsletter. It's exactly the content that SnapComms sends to our customers. Now, sorry about that. Let's go back there and look at the other one. This you'll recognize from the marketing we've done for this webinar, and it's just a generic newsletter showing mixed formats, mixed column formats, where we have 2 columns changing to 3 columns. Again, we have a ticker, we have a slideshow, and we have a video. Not that it's necessarily best practice to put all of that into one newsletter, but I just need to show you what's possible. Righto. So I hope that's got you a bit excited about what we're going to do today. Let's quickly look at the prerequisites. As you know, SnapComms is a 2-part solution. It's a server-client relationship. The first part is the content manager. It's hosted on our cloud or on your premise, and the newsletter tool was released to the content manager in January, so it is available now on our cloud solution, and it's available in the latest version of our server software. That version number is on screen. Second part is the SnapComms client, which was recently relaunched and renamed the SnapComms app, And that's the part that we just looked at on my screen, installed on staff computers, and it receives the SnapComms messages, in this case receives the newsletter. So for you to use the newsletter, your staff must have the new app, preferably version 1038, which is available in the cloud right now. Some of you might be unsure whether you have the new or the old app. So the new app has a very distinguishable look. This is the old one. It's on the left, and it's been replaced by this new look on the right, and it also includes a badge count, so your staff in their system tray can see how many unread messages they have. Okay, and obviously the last thing you need is a license to use newsletters. Now, you can recognize this by the yellow icon, and if you don't see this in your content manager, then please reach out to Ellen or Ria or your account manager, and they can arrange that to be loaded as a trial for you as soon as possible. Ellen, are there any questions yet? Because now we're going to jump into the content manager and get started.
Not at this time.
Good.
So I'm sure they're excited to see it.
I'm glad you said that. Right.
And for those that join late, there is a question area in your webinar. So you just need to type your question in, and then I'll relay that to Jane. We had a few people join a little bit late.
Thanks, Ellen. Right. Hopefully you'll recognize this as the SnapComms Content Manager, and I'm going to jump straight in now. This is my dashboard, and the shortcut, the easiest place to start is to click the big orange Create Content button. I'm going to select the folder I'm working in today, which is my East Coast webinar folder. And now I need to find that yellow newsletter icon. You can either scroll down to find it on the list, or there's a handy filter. Simply type newsletter and up it comes. Now again, if you don't see that icon, it's because you haven't been it hasn't been enabled for you, so just reach out and we can help you with that. So you click on the newsletter icon, and here you have your template selection. Now I need to stress that these are layout templates and not design templates. The design and branding of your newsletter is applied by yourself in the next steps. So this is where we just choose the layout that looks closest to the newsletter that you're wanting to create. So a couple of options: 2 columns below a header, 3 columns below a header, a slideshow followed by 2 columns, or for more advanced users you can start with a completely blank canvas. But I'm going to choose the 2 column and take it from there. As I said in my introduction, layouts can be changed on the fly, so don't get too hung up about being caught choosing the wrong template at this stage. So I'm choosing
Jane,
yes?
We do have one question at this point that you probably are about to answer. But is there a limit to how long an article can be, or how long the newsletter can be?
Not at all. So I'll start with the second part. The newsletter literally scrolls within a borderless browser. So a scroll bar will appear, and you can keep scrolling till you reach the bottom. And similarly for articles within the newsletter, they can be as long as you need them to be. If you only want to show a short part of the article, you could use the scroll bar for people to read the rest. But I will show you, just remind me, we are working on an expandable article feature where you can put the introduction and then have a quick button to read more. That's also going to come. So no limits at all.
Thank you.
No problem. Excuse me, I'm just going to get my notes up on the other screen because I'm not terribly good at typing in public, so I'm going to give my newsletter a name. This is newsletter issue 4. And I click create. So now you see the newsletter designer interface. The template you've chosen is on screen. There are the 2 columns. There's the header, and there is placeholder content which can be edited, deleted, or replaced with any of these content modules on the right, which can be simply dragged and dropped into the newsletter. But before we get started with that, I'm just going to take you on a general orientation of this screen. Starting top right, we have a breadcrumb navigation where you have your folder that you're working in and the name of the newsletter you're working on. Scrolling to the left, you have the newsletter name, which you can edit in line if you need to adjust that. Obviously, the big central area, we call that the designer canvas, and that's where you actually pull in the elements from the right to create your newsletter, and we will go through each of these as we put together the newsletter in a few minutes. I'm going to pause here and look at the settings because the settings are important. They control the default fonts and colors. So this is where we start to set the style and the branding for the newsletter and the little notification window that pops up to announce a newsletter. So let's take a look at settings now. It's always best practice to set these up first because they will then control the colors throughout for all items that you pull in. Also, I mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned cloning. Once you've set up your first newsletter and you have it looking gorgeous with all your correct fonts and colors, it's very easy simply to clone that newsletter. So we're working on issue 4. We could clone issue 4 and publish that as issue 5 next week, and all of this would be pre-set up. So it does take a few minutes to get it right up front, but then you only have to do it once. So on the general settings, this relates to actually this newsletter, so that's the name. You can give it a description if you find that useful. Now, the default width is 800 pixels wide. Both those newsletters I showed you are 800 pixels wide, but you could take that to full width of your screen if your users were on wider screens. The height will be set automatically depending on how much content you add, so you don't need to interact with that now. And the padding refers to this outside padding, the space between the edge of the content and the edge of the newsletter. That is set by default to 30 pixels, and I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to leave it like that for now. Now we start with a bit of fun. I'm sure you noticed when I launched the newsletters, they came on screen with a bit of an animation, and this is where you choose your animation. The default is an elegant slide down movement, but other options are to spin, what's called ta-da, which is a eye-catching little shake, or you could have no animation at all. So I'm going to choose ta-da to show that off. Click done. And before I preview, I just want to point out that change has been automatically saved. So there's no need to save as you go with this new newsletter. All changes are saved the minute you make them on screen. You can use an undo button to change your changes, and as you build up a history, you'll be able to roll back your changes too. So let's preview that ta-da animation. Don't you like my sound effects? Okay, so that's how you change your animation, and let's go back to the settings. We're going to look at default font and color. We start off with Calibri Light, but I'm going to choose Arial. If you don't see the font that you require here, then do speak to us, because if you supply the web font, we can upload it for you so that your newsletter can be perfectly on brand. But for this today, yep.
And we have a question, Jane, and the question is, are these viewable on a mobile phone?
Oh yeah, good question, and the answer is yes. So what happens on mobile is these templates are what we call responsive. So the columns collapse one underneath each other. So if you look at this example, this top left piece of content would appear, well, the header would appear at the top, followed by this piece here, followed by the piece on the right, followed by this piece, this piece. It all collapses beautifully into mobile display. And when I send out these slides and the recording, I will include 2 screenshots of how this newsletter we're building does appear on mobile. So absolutely yes, it all appears on mobile.
Okay, bear with me. We have another question.
That's
I'm
right.
trying to eliminate the one. Ah. I apologize. My My question box is stuck. Hold on.
Well, why don't I carry on? You can interrupt me a bit.
Okay.
So talking about font size, so as the little screen text shows us, this is the normal font style or the paragraph font style, and the headers and title styles will be scaled up from whatever you choose as your base font size.
And Jane, the question is there an additional cost to upload a font?
There is a one-off $100 fee for us to upload the font for you.
Thank you.
No problem. So talking about colors, the primary color is for the text, the titles. So here you can see that title is in the orange. It's also for any background color if you choose to use background colors. And I'm going to leave mine like that. You can override these defaults at any stage. Now, notification buttons and borders, this is the I'm referring to the notification window that pops up to announce a newsletter has arrived, and I'm going to spice this up a bit because I want to use my corporate blue. So I'm switching now to my brand guidelines where I simply copy in the hex code for my color I require, and I apply that. So later you'll see where that's applied. So I think you can see how easy it is to actually to get your branding absolutely spot on, and you can do it all yourself. Now, the notification behavior, we'll come to that a little bit later when we are ready to publish. So we'll just leave that as that for then. So almost done with settings. I just want to show you one more thing, and that is background. At the moment you can see that the default background is white. I'm going to edit that, and just for fun I'm going to put in that same blue as a background color just so that you can see the effect of that. Quite dramatic, and no, I don't want to keep it, so I'm going to use the undo button to get rid of that. Okay, so now it took a few minutes to run through the setup, but now we're going to get started with actually building that newsletter. So I'm just going to bring it back on screen, remind us where we're going. That's the spin animation. So we need to start at the top with a banner, which often carries your branding, and then we're going to follow with 2 columns and a slideshow and a ticker, moving on to the video. So let's have a look here. The placeholder says that we don't have an image selected, so if I click on that, I'm prompted to select a file, and I have all the images that I need to build this newsletter in one neat folder. I click on my newsletter banner, which is pre-created, and I know that my newsletter is 800 pixels wide, so I've created my banner to fit. Open that up, and you can see it appears in the background. So like I said, because I had the width right, that looks perfect, but I could also play with it however I wanted to, but I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'll just add a little bit of space below it. Great. Next I want to a text area with a white background below my header. So I'm going to get rid of this placeholder by clicking on it, and that's
Jay,
yes?
We have a question real quick. If we have our own branding, colors, and heading, is there additional cost, and is there additional cost to what we currently have to add the new newsletter?
No. If you already have the magazine channel, this replaces it, no additional cost.
Okay.
And what was the first question?
If they have their own branding, colors, and heading, is there additional cost, or is there additional cost to what we currently have? So really, I guess they're asking if, because you just put a generic newsletter up there, so you know, obviously they can now use their own branding. That's the whole point of
absolutely. So you can
newsletter.
The point here is that you can create whatever you want in another program. That could be PowerPoint or Paint, or if you've got designers, it would be done in Photoshop or Illustrator, and you upload the JPEG or the PNG into the newsletter. So absolutely your control what you put in here. No extra cost.
Thank you.
Okay, so as I said, I don't want this orange area, so I'm going to delete that. And I'm not sure if you noticed, as I deleted that area, all the other text areas moved up to fill the empty space. So now I'm ready to replace, I need to move this into the left column. So again, I click on it where I get my handle, which I simply drag, and that now falls into the left column. So now it's time to edit this. So I will just type this in, welcome to issue 4. And don't worry, it's not going to be painful. I have got my text pre-prepared in a Word document, which I'm simply going to paste in, mainly to show you that the formatting is retained if you want it to be, else you can use the clean formatting, so you can get rid of your formatting. But I'm just going to add an extra line space there. You can see it's brought it in at the inherited font, which is Arial, at 12 point. But if I wanted to, I could override that now, and I could change this color. I could put Natasha's name in pink if I really wanted to. So lots of flexibility in what you can change there. So now I'm going to change this. Oh, actually, one last thing, there's way too much white space below my text. So I'm going to use these little arrows, very useful. The one is to expand to fill the row, which we don't want, but we want to size the row height to the content. So if I click that, you can see it automatically snaps up so that the text box fits the content. Very useful. Now moving on to this image. I don't want an image here, I want a slideshow, so I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to pull the slideshow above that other piece, which means it will flip into that right column. Perfect. So now we need to add some images. So I click on the cog and I go back to my folder where I have my images ready. I'm going to use the control button to multiple select and open that up. Now I can reorder the slideshow images by simply dragging them, or I could delete them if I'd made a mistake. And here I can set the slideshow transition, which by default is to slide left. I'd like to slide down so that I have an effect of my images floating down from my header. And I can also control the slideshow speed. It's by default a medium 5-second speed, which suits me fine, but you could slow that down completely to 1 minute if you chose. So I'm almost done, but we need to match the size here. So again, I'm going to use these orange sizing buttons, and this time I'm going to expand to fill the row so that it matches the next door piece of content. Great.
Jane,
Yep.
we do have one question in reference to animation. Do you use Flash?
No. No. Flash is a thing of the past. This is all using the latest technologies, HTML5. So no more Flash.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem. Right, let's add the ticker, but I would like to frame my ticker with a horizontal separator bar. So I'm going to pull, sorry, sometimes the GoToMeeting makes this a bit sticky. Don't know what's happening here. Where has that put it? Sorry. There we go. This is a horizontal separator. The default size is 5 pixels, but I want it to be 3. And if I wanted to, I could switch on default color and I would have an orange separator. But again, I'm going to be fussy because I've got strict brand guidelines, and I'm going to go back and use another one of my corporate colors for my bar. There we go. Time to add the ticker. So we choose the ticker module from the right, and we pull, oh goodness, I am having troubles today. Let's delete that. Nope, doesn't want to work. In fact, we'll leave it like that. It's come in at half column width, and at this point I'll just show you how to change that. I'm going to use the column splitter, and I'm going to indicate that I want this ticker to use the whole width but it's come in at the wrong place, so let me just delete this piece. There we go. Now it's in the right place, except I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, let's add our text for our ticker. So again, I'm going to copy and paste that in, but that's not big enough, not eye-catching enough, so I'm going to change the default size up to, I think 20 works well here, and I am having trouble today.
So the good news is for those that are new users, when they have questions, it's new to us too. So, so we understand.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Sure.
If you only have the newsletter channel but not the ticker channel, will it still work on your newsletter?
Yes.
Very good question.
Very, very good question. Yes, it will. It's actually a slightly different technology, so it's not using the same engine that drives the other ticker. So everything you see on the right here is available as soon as you buy the newsletter channel. Right, so I think I have made that larger. I'm now going to color it, but this time I am just going to be a bit more flexible, showing off how I can just drag the slider. I'm going to choose that cheerful blue. And now I am going to underline it, and it says click here to vote, so I need to add a hyperlink. So I use the hyperlink feature and I paste in my hyperlink from my other document. Now please do tick open link in a new window. I have put through a request to the product team to make that the default, because when somebody clicks on the link on your newsletter, you want the newsletter to stay there and the link to open in a new window. So until that's done, do remember to click open in a new window. Right, so let's click off that now. There we go, except it's scrolling from right to left, which I really don't like. So clicking on my settings.
And one thing I think we can point out, Jane, too, is there's a fabulous user guide now for this tool. So when people go to try it, we do have a fabulous user guide for you to use, in addition to all of our other resources.
My fabulous demonstrations. Right. So if I click off now, that should be coming in from the right, in theory. This ticker is really playing up today. Let's see if it previews. Yeah, so it's working in the preview. I think I've got some issues in my browser caused by GoToMeeting, but I'm not going to troubleshoot now. I'm just going to change that height. Oh, there we go. Add another separator below that. Quickly change that to my color.
For those of you that don't use GoToMeeting all the time, they had a major outage yesterday, so we're all recuperating from yesterday.
Yeah. Holding our breath so it doesn't go down again. Right, and that's just looking a little bit big. So pull it up a bit. There we go. So, this is for demonstration purposes. I could fiddle to my heart's content to get that formatting perfect, but it's good enough for now. So next thing is I want to add 3 little columns of content below my ticker. Now, they're all going to contain text and images. So what do? I'm going to pull in the text module, and that puts in full width text, which is not what I want, but again I can just use the splitter tool to tell it to only use 1/3. That's perfect. And I need 2 more of those, so I simply duplicate and duplicate. And magically I've gone from 3 columns actually to 1 column to 3. So I'm hoping that I've just demonstrated and proven the complete flexibility that you have with this tool. Those of you who've used the old newsletter will know that this was completely out of the question unless you requested us to build you a whole new template. So let me go about now adding some content here. There's not time to put it in all 3, but I just want to show off how you can mix content and images within the same text area. So this area is called Health and Safety Survey, and oopsie, that's why I should never type in public. and copying in my content.
And Jay, we have a question. Will the text flow from the one column to the next this way through?
Oh, I see. I see. If you had a long article and you wanted
to
to
split it
flow,
up into 3 articles, yeah.
you'd have to do that manually, but there's no reason why you couldn't. No. But you would have to enter, it all manually. It doesn't do that automatically. So, in other words, you can't split it automatically. But if you
It's
want,
designed to be 3 separate topics.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Right, so I'm going to add an image now. I want people to click on my image to go to the survey. So again, I take the survey image and pop that in. Oh, for goodness sake. And that's in the wrong place, but I can just drag it down. And now I want to make that image a hyperlink. So again, I just paste in my hyperlink. So your newsletter can be kind of an entrance portal to all sorts of other content behind it. So the other 2 columns were very similar in my demonstration, so I'm not going to go into those, but I am going to now go into how to add a video, quickly add some text.
And we have one question for you.
Sure.
We are currently limited to 4,000 character articles. Is there a max for each of the article columns?
Not at all, no. These columns will expand to fit your content, so there's no max at all. I hope that's good news. Right. So
type away.
I'm just quickly adding some content here. Oh, that's not working. Never mind. It's dropped the font, but I might as well show this off. I can say, no, I want that to be heading font. But something has gone funny with my sizing. Let's just do it like that. Anyway, we'd add some text there. Talking about the promotional video, get the sizing right. We know how to add text, and now let's add that famous video. So this is really, in my mind, the crown jewel of this new tool, because usually, well, for any of our competitors' products which are delivered via email, serving any video or scrolling is impossible, of course, unless you do it via an animated GIF, which is pretty limited. So being able to actually play a video in a newsletter delivered to screen is pretty powerful. So, oh my goodness, I need to copy my video link. Bear with me, I haven't got that open, but I can just grab it from somewhere else.
And while you're grabbing that, we do have a question, and that is, can you print the newsletter to a PDF?
Yes, you can. We will get to that point when we hit the publish button. There we go. Sorry, that's what I'm looking for. So the short answer is yes, and I'll show you exactly how to do that when we get there. So sorry, I was not quite prepared for that. So anyway, there's my video on YouTube. All I need to do is copy the ID, and I place that into the video ID field, and we will do the rest. So by default, the video is muted, but if you take that off, then the sound will play as soon as the video appears on screen. We had a question in an earlier webinar about allowing the user to start the video themselves, and yes, that's very much on the cards. On the plan is to add further controls here to allow, to start in pause mode and allow the user to interact with that. So there's the video. It's pulled in from YouTube, and as long as there's an internet connection to YouTube, it will be showing. Simply resize it, and there we go. So we're almost there, but we're running out of time, so I'm just going to preview that in its current state, and there it comes on screen, tickers rolling. We could go back and do some formatting to put some white space at the top there, but I think that's good enough for demonstration.
And we have one more question. We currently cannot get reports on which users click to open the magazine. Will reports be available to us in the new magazine?
Yes. Again, I'm getting to reporting, but yes, you can see who has opened it, and you can also see how many times they've opened it. So I will show you that when I go back in a few minutes. So let's just, if you just bear with me, let's continue and get this newsletter published, and then we can actually look at the reports for this newsletter. So let's work along the bottom now. There's 4 quick sections we have to complete. The notification, we started work on that when we set up our branding. They're the blue buttons we chose, and by default it puts the newsletter name in title font there, but that's a bit big for me, so I'm going to move that down. I think 36 works pretty well here. That looks better. And by default we just put in this placeholder text saying new issue out now, but I'm going to say special staff offers, don't miss out. So you can really be as creative as you want to in terms of that pop-up that appears announcing a newsletter has arrived. So we're nearly there. Notifications. So by default the newsletter is announced by a pop-up notification. It stays on screen for 15 seconds, that small notification, but you can change that. Recurrence frequency 0 means infinite. In other words, it will keep recurring every 45 minutes until the user clicks the read now button. So if they choose read later, the notification will silence itself for 45 minutes, but if you want it to be more aggressive, I'm going to change that to 15 minutes. You can deliver a sound with the notification, and that feature is not really relevant for a newsletter use case, so I'm not going to discuss that now. Okay, notification is ready. Targets, that's fairly obvious. We got to decide.
Question?
Yes?
One more question. Is there a way for someone in the organization to submit content and be reviewed and approved by the publisher?
Excellent, and yes, that is a feature of the old magazine. We do intend to add moderation to this newsletter, so somebody could create it and then put it into our moderation queue. Currently no, but again it's where we're planning to go with this.
But we could have you could have multiple, someone could start the creation and have it saved but not publish it, correct?
Oh, absolutely, and then it, yeah, somebody could, yes, absolutely.
Pick it up.
And pick it up,
okay.
Finalize it, and send it out. So
okay.
We default here to targeting by groups, and my group for this demo is Jane's group. Again, that's automatically saved and refreshed. I'm not sure why that jumped off, so let me just check that worked. In terms of dates, the default date setting is for 1 week, which suits me perfectly because I'm pretending I'm doing a weekly newsletter. So I want this one to be available in the message list for 1 week. So that's perfect, but I could change it to just this week, just a day, a month, or I could get very specific and granular with my dates and times of when it should be available. So that's been saved. Delivery, this is where we talk about publish to web, but I'll start at the top. By default, we publish to the SnapComms app. That means it goes to anyone with the app installed on their phone or their computer. If we know we've got mobile users, we can send a push notification, and I'm going to add something exciting like read it now to that. So that's the little notification that appears on the phone. I could also send email if I had my users' email addresses pulled in from AD. You could publish it to a webhook. At the moment we have Slack integrated, so if you use Slack, you could publish the web link to Slack right from your SnapComms interface. And finally, publish to web. Here we produce a URL, and this becomes active once the content has been published. So if I clicked on that now, it wouldn't work, but as soon as I publish that link will work. When I send out the recording of this webinar, I'll include this link so you can all go back and have a look at how it appears to web. Okay, so let's do all of that, except I'm not interested in Slack, and that's been saved. And finally, we open the publish button, and somebody asked about PDF. So instead of publishing, at this point you can, you can additionally print opens your browser print controls. PDF export gives you two options. A4 will shrink it to one sheet, so if you've got a really long newsletter that might not work. Full size will print it all full width and full length, but you might have some awkward line page breaks, but we are working on that, so just bear with us there. Okay, oopsie daisy. So let's publish that now and witness the full presentation of that notification and looking at it on screen. Shouldn't be too long, and then we'll move on to the advanced features. All right, so there's confirmation, and I just heard a sound. I'm not sure if you guys heard it.
Yep, we can see it.
You can see it, and it's on my phone too. Read now.
We've got a question. Can you set it up to auto-publish at a certain date and time?
Absolutely.
Sorry if I missed that. But yes.
Absolutely, yes. So anyway, there it is on screen. I've got that scroll bar indicates I've got some spacing issues, but there's proof. And if I click on that, my newsletter does stay on screen, but my other window opens. So let's close it there. I'll just quickly go back to how we would set up date and time, future publishing. I would simply choose a date in the future. So let's say I want to publish it on Monday at 8 a.m. That's done. If I save
just
that
like
now,
when you send an alert.
Yep.
Just as if you're sending an alert. Yeah, and we have one other question, Jane, so sorry to cut you off. But can the PDF be created after the magazine is published, or in this case it's newsletter, after the newsletter is published?
Yes, I mean as long as you don't delete the newsletter from your content manager, you can always go back and create a PDF.
Okay, great. And bear with me, we have one more question. Got to just get the one off the screen. What time zones when we schedule to publish at a specific time and date?
Usually the default is to treat publishing times as local to the client. So that's 8 a.m. Monday I scheduled. If I had users in New Zealand, they'd receive that at 8 a.m. Monday. And if I had users in Los Angeles, they'd receive that on 8 a.m. their Monday. But if I wanted, say it was an important company announcement and I wanted everybody to receive it at exactly the same time, then I could use absolute UTC time zone. So I'd set an absolute time and then everyone would receive it at exactly the same time no matter where they were. Does that answer?
I get that. Yes, you're saying yes.
Fantastic. Right. So I'm just going to pop back here and quickly run through this list, and then I will jump back to talk about each of them. We do have a table formatting option within the text editor. So if you do have specific, and quite detailed requirements around alignment of text and images, or say you wanted to split your text within a column into two columns, you could do that with tables. There is also the ability to view the source, that's the HTML source, and to edit that directly if you're proficient in HTML. I did talk briefly about padding, but I'll talk a bit more about that. We've spoken about print to PDF, and we've spoken about the web page as content. So going back to the newsletter, let's look at the tables. If I look at one of my text sections and I bring up my text editor, there is a table wizard. So I would simply click there to create a table, and I would select how many rows and columns. This is a pretty familiar interface, and that would split this into that, and I could then separate elements into a table. There's a table wizard, so you can get quite intricate in terms of padding and having lines or borders or not. So that's for our advanced users. You see, I could make it look pretty good without the tables, but we do have customers who do need those tables. The other thing I was going to show you, again, looking at the editor, was to view source, view the HTML. Those of you, this will be very familiar to HTML people, so you can edit that directly. You can change the font size, you can change whatever you want, or you could copy and paste your HTML in from another source. So you could actually shortcut that whole process. In terms of padding, we did talk about padding around the outside, but you can actually add padding within each section of content. So if I click on my settings and I have a look here, I can add padding. So let me do something quite strange, like 30, and you can see that it's added white space all the way around that piece of content. So that's another way you can change your design and layout. Okay, let's quickly talk about reporting. There are two relevant reports for the newsletter. The first one is our favorite report, the success report, and it shows that the total number of times the newsletter has been shown on screen. And the second is your click-through drill-down report, which shows the number of clicks per link. So, you know, that's a cumulative click per link per day, really. What we're hoping to get to is who clicked which link. We just got to join those dots. So moving back to my content manager, I'm going to now, actually I'll just do it from here. So my reports are now available because I've published it. If I'm going to look at my success report, oh dear, I seem to have frozen. Here we go. So there we go. We targeted two people. One was my phone and one was my PC. I haven't allowed it into my phone, but if I did, we'd reach that. And so of the person it has reached, that's the PC, you've got 100% success. So if you look at the detail here, it reached Jane. She's seen it on screen once. All right. Now, if I go back here and show it on screen again and close it, I do need to, so by default you are shown consolidated reports, which only shows overall, but if I look at that latest version, that's going to update now to show that I have, the user Jane has seen that newsletter twice on screen. So moving quickly to the click-through, if you had links in your report, the click-through report is a little bit harder to access, but the stats are all there. So there we have newsletter issue 4. There was one click, and that was me clicking on that that link in the ticker. So it's all being collected right there. Okay, we're nearly done and we're coming up for the top of the hour. So a little bit of best practice. I did speak about when I was talking about settings. Once you've got that newsletter beautifully set up, you don't have to do it again each time. The best practice is to use the clone function. So you would just, in your newsletter, in your dashboard view or your folder view, you simply click on the hamburger menu that opens the options here, and you click on clone, and that pretty much creates an identical copy of it with, and you can rename it. So I would rename this to issue 4 or issue 5, and replace out the content for that next issue and then publish that. Whoops, let's go back just to point out that please don't republish. We do have customers who come to us with problems with their reports. They can't work out what's gone wrong, and we realize that they have edited issue 3 to be issue 4, and then we can't work out who's read what content. So clone,
Jane,
don't publish.
A question related to that.
Mm-hmm.
Can I edit a cloned magazine or a cloned newsletter?
Yeah,
Can I edit a
absolutely. That's the intention, is to clone it and then edit it.
So you're really just getting the format.
Yeah, you're just getting the format.
All the beautiful format that you created with your company color.
It's almost like saving your template, saving your base template. So yes. Righty, so just just before we finish, some other resources. There's a beautiful product page on our website which goes through all the value, the benefits and the features of the newsletter. There's a lovely little video animation. As Ellen reminded me, we've got a very extensive user guide for this newsletter. If you just go to our knowledge base and type newsletter, that will all come up. There is a video demonstration. It's about 2 minutes, and it just very briefly does a bit of a sales demonstration of the capabilities. And soon to be coming will be a video tutorial in our Learning Center, where we'll take you through pretty much what I've just done now, but probably in about a 10-minute video tutorial. And just to be professional, I did quote some statistics early in my presentation. I have included a link to those there. Excuse me. And of course, you can reach out at any time to our tech support team. So,
and we have another question real quick, sorry. I don't know if I caught the answer. Does it allow the option for people to submit content to the editor?
At the moment, no. They would have to email that content to the editor, and the editor would then put it into the newsletter themselves.
Thank you.
Okay. So next steps. I'm hoping you are all excited. Oh, missed the next steps. If you haven't already, you need to upgrade to the new app. Ellen or Ria or our tech support team can assist you with that. If you're on on-premise software, you will need to have the latest version. So again, Ellen or Ria can help you with that. Then just request that newsletter trial and start sending out all your news in that one beautiful place. So that ends my presentation. So any further questions or comments? I'd love to hear some feedback.
We'll give them a minute in case they're typing feverishly. Someone is noting it looks fabulous.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for that. And just to note, I should have put my email address up here. I'm Jane, Jane @snapcomms.com. You will receive emails from me with the recording. I'm the product marketing manager. It's my job to be your voice in the organization. So let me know. Let me know how it's going. Let me know what you need, and I can make you heard here at SnapComms HQ. Well, I'll do my best anyway.
Oh, we have one more question.
Sure.
Or comment. Thank you so much. Great presentation. Next step for us is to get the beta trial version.
Fabulous. That's great.
I know this client, and I will follow up with you on that. So
super duper.
We'll take care of that.
Okay.
See if there's any others. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. It's 1 minute to the hour. So.
Wow, we're good. Aren't we good, Ellen?
I think we're good.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to end there and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.
Have a great evening.
Thanks for your help, Ellen. Bye.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.